Get sales lessons from experts and entrepreneurs.
Go out there and be the spokesperson and the representative for the brand.
On how you can bring your A game in selling.
Making sales requires putting yourself out there and being vulnerable.
To start and scale your business.
We need to negotiate for what we deserve.
This is Ace the Sales Podcast, and here's your host, Roshni Baronia.
Hey there, thank you so much for joining me for today's episode where I am in conversation with Amita Jalan, CEO and founder of TrainCraft, a well-known learning and development firm based out of Bangalore. I'm always intrigued and excited to talk with women from corporates who took the plunge into entrepreneurship because mindset plays a big role here. When you need to sit on the other side of the table, things look quite different, don't they? So let's talk about how this transition from being an employee to entrepreneur has been for Amita. But before I do that, a quick reminder to follow Ace the Sales on your podcast listening app, because when you do that, it helps us take this podcast and the valuable conversations to many more entrepreneurs just like yourself. And now, join me in welcoming Amita to the mic. Hey Amita, welcome to Ace the Sales podcast. So happy to have you here.
Thank you, Roshni, for having me on Ace the Sales. I'm curious and excited to see how this conversation goes.
Oh, so are we. So Amita, tell us a little bit about TrainCraft, your organization, and what got you started with it.
So TrainCraft is a learning and organizational development organization, and we have been in the industry since 2005. And our primary focus is designing and delivering learning interventions that can help individual contributors, first-line managers, as well as leaders explore their highest potential, bring their best selves to work, have teams that are high-performing, that are collaborative. So the whole intention is to address any behavioral issues or any behavioral challenges that individuals, leaders, or teams face. And there we come in with our expertise and our competency to diagnose what are the current issues that the team is facing or the individuals are facing. We design interventions that lead to the organization developing, moving forward. That's the work that we are currently into. I think I was meant to be part of TrainCraft, and just a few trajectories by the destiny led me towards TrainCraft. I joined TrainCraft fully in 2016. So we are talking of almost 6 years now. But before that, I was associated with TrainCraft as a consultant. I would offer them my services to deliver these programs or design these programs. And in 2016, the founder director of TrainCraft, her name is Saparna Jain, she offered me to become a managing partner with her. And I was just in the process of becoming a new mom at that time. And while becoming a new mom, I was also becoming mom of another child, which was TrainCraft. And I did become a mom 2 times.
That's a wonderful way to look at it, actually. But we would actually deep dive a little bit more into this transition of yours from employee to consultant to managing director. So we'll get into a little bit more of that journey. But before that, just some lighthearted and fast-paced questions I wanted to have with you to just peep into the other side of you. So are you ready to take on those questions?
Absolutely.
Tell us one thing that we won't know or find on your website, social media profile, or anywhere else in the digital world.
About me, yeah, that I love cleaning. I love cleaning my home. I love setting up my home. I am I am this really house proud person who likes to do up my spaces very well. I love plants a lot. So, my home decor means plants, my balcony decoration means plants. So much so that recently on my birthday, my 6-year-old son drew a card for me where on the cake he had made one big plant and said, I'm gifting you a plant cake. Yes, Mama loves plants.
Oh my God, it is so obvious that a 6-year-old can also understand.
Yeah. So I think I love doing up my house and I love being close to nature. So when I can't go out, then I bring the nature home as much as possible. And most of the time, my cleaning happens when I'm upset. And I kind of find that as a great way to de stress myself, or I declutter my head through decluttering spaces.
Awesome. That's the same therapy I get into when I am stressed. I am cleaning up my wardrobes or organizing the home. It's a very therapeutic, actually, that decluttering. Good one. Amita, you are from Bangalore, right? So tell us your favorite place in the city.
There is a place in Bangalore called Cubbon Park, and Cubbon Park is like this really large, expansive park that is there in Bangalore, and it has a nice area around it with decently good roads, which Bangalore is not usually famous for. So that space of Cubbon Park and the space around it, I love going there. I don't get a chance to go there often because unfortunately my son loves going more to places where he can play a lot more or where other kids are there. And so when we do have company, that's the place I would really like to go more often to.
Wonderful. And last question. When I say successful women business owner, who comes to your mind?
Who comes to my mind? So ironic right now that when you said this, the two people that came to my mind was my business partner and me.
Oh, very nice. That's the best example. That's the best thing. Self love and self appreciation. Good one.
Yes. You said that, and I thought I'll give a more appropriate answer by giving you name of the
No,
successful
this is the best one.
owners.
See, we don't recognize ourselves enough and pat our back enough. So kudos to you for doing that. Okay, so Amita, let's get into a little bit more insightful journey with you, wherein you shared earlier with us that you were earlier into corporates and then you were working with TrainCraft as a consultant before moving into a full-time managing partner role and wearing the hat of an entrepreneur. So I want to dig in a little bit more with you into the mindset piece in terms of what has the transition been like for you from being an employee to an entrepreneur? What were the shifts you had observed in the way you approached your work before and after?
I was an employee for a very brief period. For a year and a half is when I was in that wearing the hat of an employee, and I don't think that I set out intentionally to become an entrepreneur, but there were some values or some need in me which are needs very similar to entrepreneurs currently. So the need of, let's take, freedom, or the need of autonomy, the need to really create something of your own, which is your own, the need to truly impact the people that you're working with, the need to really understand customer issues and challenges directly rather than be at the back end, and to be in the forefront. Those needs were quite clear in me even when I was working as an employee. And I think it was just a matter of time that I would have left my job. So as an employee, I'm not very proud because I was the employee who was quite quitting that time only. I am an engineer by qualification, and it took me 4 years of my engineering and 1.5 years of working as an engineer to figure out that I could be a good engineer, but a very sad engineer if I continued in that profession ahead. in 2008, while I was getting placed in different organizations and I was giving interviews. I had an interview with a CTO of an organization, and I had cleared 8 rounds of the interview, and this was like the ninth round with the CTO. And he asked me quite basic questions about technology, of how things work around. As an engineer, I am really supposed to know about how things work around me, the technical gadgets. And I did not have answers for that. So I could clear the rounds where you needed theoretical knowledge to really crack the interviews or the coding knowledge, but not really the practical knowledge that you need around, which can make you a great engineer. And he left me with this thought that, do machines really create curiosity in you? Do you really wonder about why this thing works the way it works? And clearly for me, the answer was no. But his question sent me down a rabbit hole on what really created curiosity in me. What is it, something where I could work and I could put in the hours and not crib and complain about putting in the hours. I would do more research, figure more about things. And that rabbit hole journey went on and on. I got my job as an engineer. I started working there, and there I had a chance to be in a training workshop, very similar to what we conduct right now. And we had a facilitator there who conducted the workshop. And I think I needed those 2 days to know that I would love to be on the other side of the room, rather than be on the side that was listening to that facilitator or doing activities that she was giving. And that led to the quiet quitting happening at the work, where I would do just what I was asked to do so that I don't get called out for my lack of performance or anything. And I also started figuring out in which spaces they would accept an untrained person who has no clue of the industry actually be a facilitator. And I found out 2 3 academies around where, their need of trainers was very high. They needed people who could come and train, and they were okay to take the risk with me to let me facilitate workshops. I started doing my own research, my own work, figuring out how do you design training programs, how do you deliver them, what are the skills needed. Thankfully, I had the skill of communicating effectively, so that took me ahead in learning things well. And that's when I discovered that what generates curiosity in me is on how the mind works, how human behavior works, how relationships work, how habits get formed, and why are people the way they are? How do they take decisions in their life currently based on the past patterns of their own childhood? How do you move away from those patterns? And that led to courses, diplomas, books, research, all of
There's
it.
so much of resourcefulness as an entrepreneur you had to do, because that is one of the initial traits of being a good entrepreneur. You figure out stuff for yourself. Things you don't know yet, you take every attempt and every action to figure those things out. So that's wonderful that from knowing nothing about what a trainer does, you were able to figure out that, yes, how to be the best trainer in the space that you are working in, right?
Yes, that's how I became a consultant. I started getting assignments, taking assignments. I think 2012 was the time I was most active on LinkedIn, like promoting myself that, here I am, please take my services. Cold emails, sending contacts to people on LinkedIn, asking them, I would love to meet you, sending them my own created, very horrible profile.
In fact, I would want to dig into exact that arena where you didn't know anything about sending out emails, cold emailing, sending out DMs, because that comes with a lot of inhibition also. Putting yourself out there and in a way that you are selling something, selling your services, selling your brand, your personality, because in the initial phase, you yourself are the business. So that would have been really challenging for you, right? Or was it very easy? What was the experience?
When I go back to those times and think about it, I think challenging would not be the word. I was really, really desperate to make my mark in the industry. So there was this, you can call it desperation or you can call it fire in the belly, that I just wanted to be in this industry, because for me it was like a child who had finally figured out what she wanted, and this was her candy land, and now she will do everything to get the candies that she wants. A lot of these inhibitions and voices that I currently am in touch with, in currently with my reality, were voices that were put aside, that we will come to you later. Okay, we don't have time for inhibitions and all these issues right now. There is big stuff to be done right now. See, there was also the family dynamics who were thinking that, what exactly is this girl doing by leaving a very well cushioned, very well settled engineering job, which has a very predictable trajectory to it, and moving into a space that they did not understand. So, for the longest time, my family described me as an English language trainer, because they did not have the terminology, or saying she does personality development programs. And whereas the work I was doing was quite different. So there was this thing that I have taken this risk to change my career. And before anyone else, I have to tell myself that, Amita, the decision that you took was really worth it. Somewhere in my gut, I knew that this is my industry. I love being a facilitator. I love diagnosing issues that are happening with individuals and team and design programs. And now, but I don't know how to do it. So let's figure out a way how to do it. So I would reach out on LinkedIn to people who had a trajectory of career that I wanted for myself. So reaching out to them for either advice or for working with them. And it was in one of these cold DMs that I wrote to the founder director of TrainCraft, is how TrainCraft happened to me.
Hey there, hope you've been loving the episode so far. Just wanted to take a moment to invite you to Ace the Sales Club, which is a tribe of women small business owners who dream, dare, and do amazing stuff. If that's you, which I'm sure you are, just sign up for it from the link given in show notes, as every month we share with you tools and resources that can save you time, save you money, or help you make more money as a solopreneur. So sign up for the club from the link given in show notes. And now back to the episode. Wonderful. So you will never, you cannot ever imagine what opportunities come through. You just have to persist through the actions of it. But what I also hear you saying is that while you loved the work that was on the plate, that helping people, helping them realize their full potential and working with the mind, not the machine, there also is the second aspect of being a business owner or a consultant or a solopreneur, that you have to sell all of those services. And when you were doing those DMs and you were doing those cold pitches, were there ever any time when you felt that, oh, I'm not getting the kind of response that I'm expecting from people, or I'm not, whatever I have in mind, whatever passion and the intention I have with me, with in terms of my services, it is not being accepted the way I want people to accept it. So, how did you deal with that rejection, which we say in sales? What was it like for you when people didn't respond?
It does get very challenging, because when someone does reject your profile, or says that, okay, we are not looking for this right now, we want something else, it gets very easy to internalize that rejection and think that that is you getting rejected as a person, or you getting rejected for the competency that you bring to the table. And self doubt has been like the voice that has always been there in the background. And it has been a journey to accept and acknowledge that voice before I silence that voice. So there were enough and more situations where I felt, did you really do the right thing? Like, are you really cut out for this? Because you still don't have the degree or the qualifications to back the profession that you are in. And with there was that traditional mindset that you would need like a master's in psychology, you would need to undergo train the trainer yourself before you project yourself as someone. And there were a lot of those moments of doubt. Even as a consultant, I think the doubts start arising financially as well. When you see that your peers who are taking a traditional structured path of career are reaching a certain place, they are getting a stable income coming into their bank accounts every month. Vis-a-vis there, you are all lost. And months where you're making great money, and then there are months that are lull, that are silent. And the training industry was subject to those recessions at many periods, because training is still seen as a support function. So whenever organizations have to cut budgets, I think the first place that they cut budgets are the learning, which would directly impact my work.
So, how did you navigate through that? Like, what were your tools? Because you are in the business of training and giving them, equipping people with those tools, right? So, what were the tools that you used yourself to overcome all this?
I think the first was my firm conviction that this is the place that I'm meant to be. Now, others can keep rejecting or saying what they have to, but because at the same time, there were positives as well. So there were programs that were going great. There was also a client who was giving me more work, and I needed to use those evidences and put them in the foreground, and put these rejections in the background as my coping mechanism to be resilient and to keep moving on. That while there is this list of 10 rejections, there are these two acceptance also that has come. There is this program of yours that has got phenomenal feedback, and they've come back to you with more work. It may not be as much as the rejection ones, but there is something coming. And to keep using the energy of that to move forward was I think one tool that I did use for myself. And second was, there was a belief that there is a time, and at each time things will happen for you, and you need to believe in the goodness of the universe, that you may be expecting things at a certain pace, which is super fast, which is one accomplishment after the other. But there is a time, there is a learning in this. You need to take this learning before you are ready for something next. So I think my own self talk with myself, with some positive evidences, were some things that kept me going.
That's so beautiful because that's what I also emphasize a lot in the conversations that we have on this podcast is that while there is a strategic element to the entire piece of selling and sales, there is also a very spiritual and a personal level where you have to be very self aware. So, self awareness and strategy are both the aspects or both the sides of the coin when it comes to sales and selling. So thanks for reinforcing that. So one question that comes to my mind, Amita. So of course you've shared with us the initial days of your work as a consultant where you were doing DMs and all of that. So what are some key differences that you have observed in the way you used to do sell at that point of time in 2015 or 16 when you started out and versus now? What is the difference?
I think one difference is that obviously now I am representing TrainCraft, so I am the CEO at TrainCraft right now, but I consider TrainCraft as a separate organism, an organism that breathes, an organism that has a life of its own, and I am responsible for TrainCraft. So my degree of ownership and accountability which I had towards myself, I would still be lax about it. There would be days I would like not bother. But here I feel very responsible for this organization. So the ownership has really changed ways. Also, when you talk as an individual consultant to an organization, the language is very different because vis-a-vis when you talk as a business to a business. And for me at that time I felt, okay, you're just a consultant, okay, it's fine if the organization behaves in a certain way or they show their power on you and they leverage that authority and power. But currently I feel that I am in a much more equal relationship with the clients that we deal with because I don't see myself as an individual right now. I am responsible for an organization. So the way I talk, the way I respond to the clients, the way we project ourselves on LinkedIn is very different the way I would project myself as an individual. I can choose to be inconsistent with my own personal page. I would not be inconsistent with TrainCraft's LinkedIn page because there, no, it's just my scope of control is just me, and here I am creating a brand.
So you are representing a business brand, and that's what has added to your authority and credibility and the way you project yourself in front of your clients or prospects. That's a great element and a way to see your approach to selling and approach to conversations with clients.
Yeah. So for me to move from that very independent framework where I used to call myself as an independent consultant to TrainCraft, I totally believe interdependence is the way for TrainCraft to grow, for me to grow, and whoever who engages with TrainCraft for them to grow.
Great insight, Amita. Last question. What's your message to the women entrepreneurs who are listening to this podcast? Because most of our listeners are women solopreneurs and entrepreneurs who want to learn more about selling. So, what's your advice? How can they fall in love with selling?
I think as women know, a lot of us have been told to be small, to play small, to be soft, and to keep our demands also soft. So I think my biggest advice would be to start owning yourself and to own your presence in the room. So when you go for a sales pitch, then you don't take the corner seat in the room. You take the center stage in the room. You expand your presence. When you speak, you don't apologize and then start a sentence. You don't be tentative about your pitch, but you own your voice in that moment. There is also this theory around don't blow your own trumpet, and I would like to really advise all women entrepreneurs out there that please blow your trumpet, because who else will blow your trumpet then? And if you are not your biggest spokesperson, then who will be your biggest spokesperson? So to really claim your achievements, to own your voice, to own the space where you are sitting at, to own your doubts and fears as well. I think to this thing of second guessing, to know that there is something that you're second guessing yourself for always, and you still go ahead and do it anyway. You second guess your pitch, you still go ahead and make your pitch anyway. You second guess, should I reach out to my friend for that contact, you reach out anyway. You second guess, is this content appropriate for LinkedIn? Should I really be posting it or not? Will it show my vulnerable side? But should I come across as sorted and grounded? You post it anyway. So I think just to own yourself and reclaim who you are, and really get in touch with your intuition and follow that gut would be my advice, because I think women are phenomenal, and the resources they have, the kind of financial wisdom they have is really astute. We've seen our mothers be financially so wise from our childhood, in the way they saved money, in the way they took care of the rainy days. That means all that wisdom is resting in us. So to just access that wisdom, and not to be apologetic about being ambitious. Like, you are ambitious, you would like to earn more money, then don't be apologetic about it. Like, you own your ambition, that yes, I really want to be freaking successful and show myself in this world.
Wonderful, wonderful advice, Amita. Own your space, own your voice, own the center seat at the table. So that's a great advice to the women entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for sharing all those insights and your journey with us. It was a lovely conversation. Thanks so much for being on Ace the Sales podcast. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found any value in today's episode, then remember to recommend Ace the Sales podcast to at least one of your business buddies. You never know what insight they will get that can help them in their business. So do some good karma today. Finally, a loud shout out and thank you to the production team of Done For You podcast, who helped me in bringing this show to you. If you too are looking to start your podcast for the business, get in touch with DFIP from the link given in show notes. Join me in the next episode for yet another conversation that can help you fall in love with selling. Till then, take very good care of yourself. This is your host, Roshni Baronia, signing off.